Diabetes Connections is brought to you by Animas Corporation, providing insulin delivery products for people living with diabetes and part of the Johnson & Johnson Diabetes Care Companies, and by Dexcom. Take control of your diabetes with the world's first continuous glucose monitoring system that sends glucose readings directly to your compatible smart device. Live life on your own terms with Dexcom. Hi, it's Stacey. You know this podcast is not intended as medical advice. If you have those kinds of questions, please contact your healthcare provider.
This is Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
This week, a big step forward for diabetes technology. This fall, the FDA approved the very first hybrid closed-loop insulin system, the Medtronic MiniMed 670G.
And that is a unique concept in the world, a pump, a sensor, an algorithm, a mathematical formula that allows you, the patient, and you, the doctor, to have a great conversation and to do what is right for you.
I spoke with Luis Diaz, Medtronic's Chief Patient Officer, and Carrie Hallbaker, the social media manager for the Medtronic Diabetes Group, about what this product is, what it isn't, access to it, and what comes next. Plus, a unique fundraiser from a unique kid. We're going to talk about the Elbow Bump Challenge.
Two people can only lick each other's elbows, but one person trying to lick their own elbow is impossible.
Yeah.
Unless you have a really long tongue.
Logan and his mom explain what that's all about and how they hope to help the Children with Diabetes group and the Friends for Life conference. It all starts now on Diabetes Connections. Welcome to another week of Diabetes Connections. I'm Stacey Sims. If you're new to the show, welcome. Really glad to have you along. The idea here is to educate and inspire through stories of connection, give you information and news about technology and products and wonderful groups where you can connect and learn more, whether you're a parent of a child with type 1 or an adult living with type 1, or you just love somebody with diabetes. I really hope that you can find out more by listening to this show. My story, my son was diagnosed when he was 23 months old, right before he turned 2. He is now almost 12, so yeah, we're coming up on 10 years here. And my whole career was in broadcasting. I was a TV reporter, a news anchor, then a radio show host. And then you put them together and we come up with a show like this. So I'm glad to have you along. If you've been here for a long time, we're almost up to 80 episodes. I've been doing this for almost a year and a half, and we've been really news heavy here recently, right? But there's been a lot of news. I have great interviews coming up with inspiring and fun people with type 1. But it's really important to me to bring you these news and these technology interviews, because at the rate we're going, I don't want to hold any of them. Something new is going to come out next week. I mean, it seems like it has been that kind of year. And I was excited to talk about this hybrid closed loop from Medtronic. There was a lot of debate in the diabetes online community as to what it really was. Some people calling it an artificial pancreas. Interestingly, Medtronic did not call it that. They always called it a hybrid closed loop or automated insulin delivery, but not an artificial pancreas. And we'll talk more about that. And this was another case where I was really glad to take your questions, usually on Facebook, some emailed. But if you have questions for the manufacturers, for the companies, or for my guests, I love to try to incorporate as many of those as possible, because as I hope you hear, I do my homework on these, but I don't use any of the products. My son uses a product, but I'm familiar with what he uses. It's not on my body. And I obviously, my family, we don't use all the different brands. So it's really great to hear the questions that you have as you use these. And that brings us to talking about Animas, our sponsor. We put a lot of thought into choosing our son's Animas insulin pump more than 9 years ago, and just as much thought each time we decided to stay with Animas. Our insurance has always covered a new pump every 4 years, and we've stayed with Animas for 3 times. We've been up 3 times, and we've stayed with them. The product is exactly what we want out of an insulin pump. Animas offers a choice of insulin pumps, so you can choose the one that suits your individual needs. The customer service is incredible, and Animas pumps fit my son's very active lifestyle. Find out more, go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Animas logo. as you listen, take a moment to make sure you're subscribed to the show. Many people listen through the website or Facebook or Twitter. Those are all great ways to listen, but it's a little easier, I think, to go to your phone and grab a podcast app. Very easy if you're on an iPhone or an Apple device. You just go to the podcast app, and it's through iTunes, but it's a podcast app. It's purple, and you can subscribe to the show there. On Android, you have your choice. I would definitely recommend Google Play Music or iHeartRadio. We're on every podcast app, though. And when you subscribe, you get the advantage of having it automatically downloaded to your phone. So if you want to listen to it, you don't have Wi-Fi, you can still hear it, and you get it right away. It can often take several hours to show up elsewhere, but when it downloads on your phone, it just pops up immediately. So I'd love for you to go ahead and do that. It's just an easier way to listen on the go, but it'll always be available on the website, diabetes-connections.com, and on social media as well. I want to tell you a quick story before we get to the Medtronic interview. Earlier this month, I was in Columbia, South Carolina for a Women of Type 1 conference. It's a JDRF conference. We've talked about it here on the show before. And I'll talk about some of that during the interview with Medtronic because I learned a lot about JDRF's involvement in the Artificial Pancreas Project, about how they started the research that led to what we're seeing now in the marketplace. But I met a man who had been diagnosed more than 50 years ago with type 1, and his son, who was in his, I think, early 20s, has type 1. And I always ask people who've been living with diabetes for a very long time if they're familiar with the Joslin Medalists. Now, what this is, it's a program for people who've lived with diabetes for 25, 50, or 75 years or more. And it's a study. It's an ongoing study, but it's also a celebration. And my understanding is there's a closed Facebook group for these fabulous people. They get together once a year to talk about the study and participate and party. And we've had some people on the show before. But the reason I brought it up is because it helped me so much years ago. Benny was at a day camp. He had to be 6 or 7 years old. He's at the YMCA for a week-long program. And he's doing his own stuff. He's pricking his finger. He's checking his blood sugar. He's using his pump with adult supervision, but he's doing it as they are watching him. And he came home and he said, Mom, I have a question for you. Can I lose too much blood by pricking my finger? We'd been doing this for 5-6 years at that point. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, a kid at camp said I shouldn't prick my finger too much because if I lose too much blood, I'm going to die. Not a stupid question from a 6 or 7-year-old, right? So I had just learned, it was one of those great timing things. I had just learned about the Joslin Medalists, and there was a video made with those who had lived with it for 50 years or more. So I said to my son, I was like, look, not only are you not going to lose a lot of blood when you prick your finger, not only is it better for you to prick your finger more often, not only are you not going to die if you prick your finger too often, you're actually going to live a better life if you check your blood sugar when you're supposed to. And here are all these people who have been doing this for 50 years or more, and they're living a long and healthy life in part because of that. And so we watched the video, and he was able to, I don't know what he told the kid the next day, but he was able to know in his heart that he was going to be okay, and it was the right thing to do. So I told this gentleman in South Carolina about it, and I said, you could be one of those people helping kids like my son. And it was just so great. So he went ahead and he's going to sign up for it and find out more. So I will link up at diabetes-connections.com under this episode, the Joslin Medalist Program. What an inspiration. Quick word from Dexcom, new sponsor of the program. And one of the biggest surprises to me when we started using the share functionality of the Dexcom system was how much more independence it gives my son. Knowing I could help him manage diabetes in real time, whether he was at a friend's house, school, a sleepover, or on an overnight field trip, gave me peace of mind while letting him be the kid he wants to be. With the Dexcom G5 mobile CGM system, dynamic glucose data can be accessed and shared safely and conveniently anywhere, anytime, to your compatible smart device as long as there's an internet connection. The Dexcom G5 Mobile is the only CGM approved for adults and children ages 2 and older with diabetes. For more information, go to dexcom.com. So the 670G, the MiniMed, the Medtronic product, brings the first system to automate basal insulin delivery to market. It increases insulin delivery when glucose is going high, and it decreases insulin delivery when you're going low. You'll still have to bolus for meals, but it will automate the basal delivery, and it sets a blood glucose. It sets it at 120. You can't adjust that, and we'll talk about that as well. But it's approved for people with type 1 diabetes over age 14. A pediatric study is going on right now. And the amazing thing to me is that the FDA approved it in 104 days. Everybody I talked to said this would be approved in the spring. International approval of the MiniMed 670G is expected next summer. There is a lot of information in this interview, and I will link up lots of stuff at diabetes-connections.com. Oh, and they mentioned Dr. Kaufman at one point. Dr. Francine Kaufman is the Chief Medical Officer of Medtronic. So I think near the beginning of the interview we mentioned that name, so that's who that is. This is the first on-air or on-the-record interaction I've had with anybody from Medtronic. I have been invited to a couple of blogger events in the past that I was unable to attend, but I was really excited to talk to them about this and to find out more, and I'm glad that they reached out and wanted to get this news out. As you can imagine, they're pretty excited about it. So here is my interview with Luis Diaz, Medtronic's Chief Patient Officer, and Carrie Hawbaker, who is the Social Media Manager for the Medtronic Diabetes Group. Luis and Carrie, thank you so much for being with me to talk about this today. I appreciate you spending some time with me.
You're quite welcome. We're happy to be with you and all your listeners. This is a great time. It's a milestone for us and for the whole category and for all the patients. So thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. We're thrilled to be here.
All right, so let's just jump right in. There is an awful lot to talk about, but let's start with the MiniMed 670G. This is the newly approved first ever hybrid closed loop system. Luis, let me start with you. Tell me about the excitement behind this product. What does it do and why is it different?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we're happy. We're happy for all of the patients in the U.S. that will soon this spring will have access to this new system. We're also surprised, to tell you the truth. We're surprised on how fast the approval took place. A lot of folks were involved, all the way from our CEO Omar through our president Human. And we've had a great close partnership with the FDA. We're also in awe. This is not done alone. This is done together with a lot of Medtronic employees, together with JDRF, together with FDA. So we're thrilled that it's taken place. It is a milestone, an historical milestone. I think this is not the artificial pancreas. But it is a big step for us all and for patients. And finally, I'll just say that the community has been just so receptive. We've gotten lots of congratulations and just a lot of excitement. It's a big responsibility for all of us and one that we take very seriously. But all in all, just this is a great day for managing diabetes in a completely whole new different way.
And Carrie, maybe I can ask you, again, if Luis, if this is your expertise, jump right back in. But what does make this different when we say the world's first hybrid closed loop system? Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So what this means is that when you're in what we call auto mode, because there's actually a few different ways you can use the system, it offers a lot of choice, which maybe Luis can talk about. But when you're in auto mode, the system will automatically adjust the basal insulin delivery to drive the person to 120 milligrams per deciliter. So you still have to bolus for meals. And as Dr. Kaufman would tell me to say, bolus before you eat. She likes to say that. And you still have to calibrate the sensor. But that daily basal insulin, the system is making all of those automatic adjustments for the person with diabetes.
So yeah, I mean, the hybrid word, I think we're all familiar with. You know, quite a lot of our cars have these two modes of acting, right? The electrical and the gas, or different types of gasoline. So that's where this hybrid word comes from. And in our case, it takes really a special meaning. It takes a special meaning because in its simplest form, it takes the auto mode where the basal insulin is automatically delivered to a preset target. But it's more than just the auto mode. It contains another mode of action. And that other mode of action is really what makes this system also very special, because it has the ability to manage insulin to a low value and to suspend insulin when it reaches a certain low value. And that's what we have in our MiniMed 530G system. It's also what we have in our MiniMed 630G system. And then it goes above and beyond that to another mode that allows insulin to be suspended before it reaches a low value. It kind of predicts and anticipates that insulin might, that glucose might reach a low value and suspends and then reactivates insulin delivery again. So it's a really very sophisticated system that allows and puts the patients at the center of what is just right for them. So within this hybrid closed loop SmartGuard technology system, you can select the mode that is best for you. And that is unique concept in the world, a pump, a sensor, an algorithm, a mathematical formula that allows you, the patient, and you, the doctor, to have a great conversation and to do what is right for you.
How did the MiniMed 670G do in clinical trials? I mean, when you had to submit this to the FDA, of course, and test it out first, did people who use it find that, this is going to sound silly, I was going to say find that it worked, but my question is, how did it work? I mean, did they see themselves kind of cruising at that 120 all the time? Did they go up and down? Did their A1Cs get better? How did it work?
Well, the response from the trial has been incredibly, incredibly positive from the patients who participated, as well as the clinicians who, of course, run the trial. And so are you going to be exactly at 120 at all times? No, but the system is always going to be driving there to keep you, to keep one in range. And actually, I guess about 80% of the people who were in the clinical trial chose to continue through the FDA's continued access program. So this was a program that allowed them to, if they chose to stay on the therapy, and we kind of supported that program even from the time that the trial ended until the product is launched. And so that's, kind of speaks for itself that I think it was about 80% of the people that chose to stay.
That's interesting. I wonder if the FDA does that for other trials, because oftentimes the trial's finished and everybody has to give everything back.
Yeah, that's typically, I think that's more the norm.
Yeah, so we obviously are thrilled. The FDA is thrilled with the clinical trial. Big effort by a lot of the investigators, and I will not name them all, but just lots of sites, lots of engagement, lots of great ideas on how to conduct a trial, to train the patients. Dr. Frank Kaufman and the investigators have published the results from a therapy point of view were very good, were outstanding. We've talked to a lot of patients. We try to understand also what it means using the SmartGuard hybrid closed loop technology, and it is significantly helped their lives. We hear a lot of parents talking about that they can now have some peace and quiet, and they're reassured that during the night the system works really well. Finally, knock on wood, we have had no significant events. The system has really worked very well, and so we're thrilled. FDA provided access to the patients. 80% of them continued with the access to the system. So we continue to learn, we continue to talk to them, and that's just part of the journey to make it even better.
Yeah, and you mentioned kids. It's officially labeled for ages 14 and older.
That's right.
But you're already doing trials for younger kids. Talk to me about that if you could, because right now the FDA said it shouldn't be used in anybody younger than 7, right? Even off-label.
Yeah, so there's we're sponsoring a trial for 7 to 13, and then I think we're working on a feasibility for 2 to 6. And, the reason that we really need to look into that under 7 population is it's for people that use a smaller daily dose of insulin. And so we need to examine that and figure out how the auto mode will work when there's not as much insulin happening.
So this is, again, about us working very closely with the FDA and really proceeding through sort of a safety path of obviously testing with 14 years and older, making sure that the system is safe and efficacious. And then we're now walking our way into the younger age group, so that the intent is to eventually make it available to children as young as 2. And we're working very hard to make that happen. We've got clinical trials and we're learning as we go.
Excellent. Let's talk about the sensor if we could, because this system is obviously a pump and a sensor and an algorithm. Many of the questions that came to me on Facebook about this were about the Enlight sensor and the new, I guess it's the Guardian 3 sensor, because in the past, the Enlight, which is the current sensor that Medtronic uses, has not had as low a MARD, and lower is better when we're talking about mean absolute relative difference, as the Dexcom G5. Talk to me about the Guardian 3 and what makes this difference, and reassure people who have asked that they didn't feel like the Enlight was as accurate as when they switched to Dexcom.
Well, this is a whole new system, and so we needed to have a completely new sensor, and so we've led the category, or we started the category with new sensors back in the day. This is a new generation. It's actually 2 generations, we think, above what the Enlight system in the market. So we're thrilled. We're thrilled because this sensor drives a lot of the system. It doesn't drive the insulin delivery, that you still have to do finger sticks to calibrate the sensor, but it's clearly at the heart of it all. So it's clearly, the word that we like to think about is trust. You have to trust the sensor to help you take action, to help you make decisions, to help the smart guard hybrid closed loop technology drive the system. But it is head and shoulders above what we have in the marketplace. It's new technology, and it just represents really the best that we have to offer. I'm not going to discuss specifically the technology, but there is a lot of new technology and new chemistry and redundancy effects that have been built into Guardian 3. So it is actually one of the things we like to talk about is this new sensor. Our Guardian 3. We think it's vastly superior and surpassed to what we've had in the market before.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we just absolutely hear you that, and hear the community that, this sensor is going to drive the insulin delivery. So we really know how important it is to be able to trust that. And that was definitely at the forefront, I think, of everyone's mind as it was being developed. And so it is really exciting. And I think it is important to remember that it is the only sensor approved to drive a hybrid closed loop system. So we're excited.
And Stacey, it's not just the sensor, which is absolutely a new, Guardian 3 is new, but we have a lot of other innovation that comes with it. So we have our new one press sorter that allows the application of Guardian 3, makes it a lot easier, make sure that the sensor is properly inserted. So So there's a lot of innovation that make the sensor chemistry plus its insertion significantly improvements in accuracy. It's the best we have. It's vastly superior. I think it drives the hybrid closed loop. It's the only one approved that the FDA right now trusts to drive an hybrid closed loop. So a lot of good stuff.
That's great. I'm curious too. So, and I said even before we started recording that I'm going to mess up the numbers, and I apologize because, as my listeners know, we use Animas, and they have the named pumps. These are the numbers, so I'll try to get it straight. But the 630G just came out a little while ago. And then there are other Medtronic pumps that you can use with the Enlight sensor. The new sensor that you're talking about and the new Certer, the one push to get it on, which I think is a great idea. Can that sensor be used? Can the Guardian 3 sensor be used with the other pumps currently on the market?
The Guardian sensor is only approved for use with the MiniMed 670G system right now.
However, I've just talked about our one press Certer.
That's right.
And the one press Certer is available right now to be used with all of our other systems, and we think that will also make significant improvements in accuracy with the Enlight sensor that is currently in the market. So we're making as many of those. We're offering the one press Certer to all of our patients, and we hope our patients will see improvements in accuracy too.
Okay, and I have to ask, why, if the Guardian is so much better, why not make it available for the other pumps too? Does it have to? Is there like a connectivity issue that it has to work with the pump?
It was just approved as part of a system.
Oh, so you can't buy it separately.
Yeah, so we're trying to we've heard a lot of comments from our community about accuracy around our sensors, and that's a longer discussion. So first and foremost, we're going to make sure that Guardian 3 works within the hybrid closed loop system, and that is our priority, and that's what it was approved to. I think in the future you will see the Guardian 3 technology also come into the market as fast as we can make it and be available in other systems. So it's just a matter of timing.
Right. So this wasn't submitted as a separate product.
No, it was submitted as part of this system, but that doesn't mean it can't be submitted as part of other systems.
Got it. Another question I had that some parents had asked was about the connectivity. And again, I don't use the system, so I may not be saying this correctly. Can you talk a little bit about remote monitoring? That's what I would call it, where you could see your blood sugar, from the sensor on a phone or a device, and then have other people, parents or caregivers or loved ones, look at the blood sugar. Can you speak to that with the 670?
Yeah, so that's the MiniMed Connect, is what we call it here at Medtronic. That is approved with our MiniMed 530G system.
Yes. So first and foremost, part of our mission is not only to bring new therapies and new technology and enable patients to manage diabetes, but it's also to make lives easier, lessen the burden. And you're absolutely right. Just the ability to connect patients and parents and the family in helping to manage diabetes is critical. So that's why we've launched the MiniMed Connect system that works with our MiniMed 530G pump, and that's in the market, been very successful, and we'll bring out new versions of that. Unfortunately, by the time that our MiniMed 670 system was in development, it uses a different radio frequency to transmit signals between sensors and pumps. So at this time, the new MiniMed 670 hybrid closed loop system does not have a MiniMed Connect communication mode. Let me reassure you, we're all very aware of the need for it. We're all working very hard to make sure that our MiniMed 670G hybrid closed loop system will have the ability to communicate in the future with parents and and anyone that needs to and wants to have access to data. So you'll see that coming out in the future.
And I'll tell you what, I do appreciate you answering all these questions, because I sometimes want to step back and I smile a little bit, because I ask these same kind of questions, when Animas comes out with their stuff, or Tandem, or anybody else. Why isn't it this? How come it's this and not that? Because we've all come so far in the last generation that we want it all, and I'm not going to apologize for that, but I appreciate answering. No, I know, but I appreciate answering these questions. My feeling is that in a couple of years, hopefully, every system will just be on your phone, and you can look at it and control it that way. I assume you're heading in that direction.
Yes, absolutely. We all want that. Our lives, more than ever, are built around our little devices. They make our lives easier. And you're absolutely right. We hope to make all of the information available on your phones, on any other devices that make it simpler for you to manage diabetes. So yes, we're working. We need feedback. We need ideas. But that's clearly the direction that we're going, to make things simpler and more connected.
And Stacey, I just want everyone to know that we absolutely do hear these needs loud and clear. I think one of the things that you and the community have probably heard from us is about a stepwise approach to some of these things. So sometimes we're taking it step by step in order to get certain benefits, like with MiniMed 670G, big clinical benefit there. We're really excited by that. And sometimes it doesn't all quite come together where you have everything, but just we really, really are working to do that as quickly as possible. But sometimes they do come in kind of steps.
So we listen to a lot of what everyone is saying out in the community, at conferences. I must say that some of the loudest voices are actually from our own employees. We have lots and lots of employees that are in the same predicament of having loved ones, children, themselves having diabetes. Carrie and I, we have someone in our own team.
Yeah, both of my employees one lives with diabetes, and one is the spouse of someone with diabetes.
So they are eager and pushing the folks in R&D to make it happen. So so it's ever present in our minds.
Yeah, they're always in here. Louis, we need this. So there's a lot of voices, but of course, listening to the community as well, right?
Sure.
Yep.
Luis, you started right off at this interview talking about and thanking a few people, including JDRF. I want to talk about that for a moment, because when this announcement came through, I saw a lot of posts by JDRF saying this was a great day, they were so excited about it, and even though I've been very involved in JDRF, I actually didn't realize their involvement in the artificial pancreas project at the level that it was. But then recently I attended a presentation, it was actually by Maura McCarthy Stanford, who talked about when JDRF set this up. And so let me talk about what she talked about, and then I'm going to ask you a little bit about it. So she told me that JDRF funded the first trial at Yale years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, to prove an algorithm could work in this kind of system. They funded more trials, they pushed the FDA toward approval, and then they pushed to prioritize the artificial pancreas project to the list of things that the FDA would even look at. And so the current CEO of JDRF was quoted as saying that, make no mistake, this day would not have happened were it not at JDRF. The name on the product might not say JDRF, but our work went into making this a reality. And that's in an article that Maura wrote recently. It sounds like you do agree with that. Is there any sort of acknowledgement for JDRF officially at Medtronic through that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, JDRF has been an inspiration. It's an inspiration for us. It's an inspiration for the patients. JDRF played an important role in working with the FDA and being a voice in advocating with the FDA. So there is plenty of credit and to go around, and it is really an effort across multiple entities. So we're happy we're partnering with JDRF in lots of other activities. We're partnering with JDRF in our, Los Angeles Walk for Diabetes at the end of the month. So it's a great partner that we will stay close during this journey and into the future. So thank you to them, and thank you to a lot of other organizations, but they clearly played an important role.
And what Lewis was mentioning is that it's fundraising season and the walk season, right, with a lot of the JDRF walks. And since we're based here in Los Angeles, that we get a big group that goes out and we do a lot of, fun activities. It's a good opportunity for both JDRF and ADA. We kind of get together and do that as a team.
This is a really off the wall question, so I'm sorry. This just occurred to me. And I'll ask this of the other pump companies too. I didn't realize the relationship with JDRF and the artificial pancreas as it was presented to me recently. Is there any feeling that maybe there should be some give back to JDRF from the profits made on the artificial pancreas? I doubt that that's how it works, but I'm just curious.
I'm not sure that we have that discussion internally. JDRF funds a lot of projects.
They don't make you sign a contract saying you're going to give them a piece of the action, though.
Not
We're a community.
Not quite. Not quite.
But one of the things, though, that leads me to is talking about costs, because, these are all great advances, but, so many people with type 1 don't wear an insulin pump or don't use a sensor, and much of the reason for that is cost. Can you talk a little bit about how this will either be covered by insurance, or I thought I read about a subscription service that Medtronic was looking at where the upfront costs might be less, more of almost, it looked almost like a payment plan when I read about it last year. Is that something that's still around?
So we do have some subscription pilots outside of the U.S. I think the one thing we would say about cost and access is we absolutely appreciate there's a lot of extra costs that go into living with diabetes. So we're always trying to work to make these products as accessible as possible. In terms of the relationship with payers and payer coverage, our team is working really hard right now. That's one of the things that they'll be doing between now and whenever the product actually ships out the door. We have made the decision to keep the cost of this consistent with previous systems. So we think that will help with access. And of course, we have financial assistance programs to those who qualify, and we're always kind of trying to make that accessible and easy. Yeah.
So the MiniMed 670G system will come out in the spring. Will come out as soon as we can, pull the all of our organization and all of other external organizations kind of come together. But right now we're trying to figure out, how much interest there is for the system, and it seems that there is a lot of interest. So we've created a program that between now and the end of the year, we call it our priority access, and for patients that get access to our MiniMed 630G system, we then have a system that allows them to get access to 670. That is for zero cost, and then thereafter we're trying to figure out what's the better system to give access to a lot of other patients. So it's still kind of evolving, and partially because of how quickly the approval came through. But we do have a priority access. I encourage everyone to go to Medtronic Diabetes and look into more information.
Yeah.
Let me just finish on another thought, Stacey. We talked quite a lot about JDRF, and we talked a little bit about artificial pancreas, and I just want to make it clear that we describe the MiniMed 670G system as a hybrid closed loop system. We think it's important to set expectations for the patients, for the doctors, of what we believe it is. And it is an automated system to deliver basal insulin. That's what it does. That's what it says. In the FDA approval, that's how we're going to describe it. We want to make sure that patients have a clear understanding of what it does and what it doesn't do. And I think that is very important for us. It's an hybrid closed loop and automated basal delivery system.
I think that's a great point, and I should point out that I may have misspoke, but JDRF doesn't call this product an artificial pancreas. They have their whole artificial pancreas project, an overreaching goal that they started all those years ago, and they think this is a significant step in that project. So you're right, the language is so important, because when we say artificial pancreas, that really does mean something else. So thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Carrie, did you have something you wanted to jump in on?
I wanted to jump in and give the website for the Priority Access Program, sure. Which is medtronicdiabetes.com/priority-access. And the only thing I wanted to add to Lewis's great comments there is that is the way to be first in line for MiniMed 670G, is those folks who move to MiniMed 630G now. And if it is before the end of the calendar year, then that upgrade from MiniMed 630G to MiniMed 670G can be as low as $0, provided you participate in an access program. Obviously, exclusions are always going to apply in some cases, but if your listeners wanted to go to the website, they can get more information there. And this is a good opportunity because MiniMed 630G and MiniMed 670G are on the same platform. So if you've heard about some of these new exciting things, it's waterproof now, so it looks a little bit more sleek and a little bit more fun, color screen, all of those kind of things. And the menus were redesigned from what MiniMed pumps used to look like, with the whole goal of being easier. And so this would give you that time to get used to that new platform, which is what's consistent between MiniMed 630G and MiniMed 670G. And be first in line.
Okay. Well, when we were talking about cost a moment ago, too, I wanted to make sure and ask you, and I don't know, Luis, if you can answer this, but this summer, there was a lot of hubbub around United Healthcare's move to make Medtronic its exclusive in-network supplier of insulin pumps. Is that something, that exclusivity, that is going to continue, do you know? And is Medtronic concerned at all about what is perceived as and not even a perception, which seems to be with UHC, a restriction of choice?
So we think that choice is important, and you'll see us coming out into the marketplace with lots of different choice. Choice in terms of the pump systems, choice in terms of sensors, choice in terms of the insertion, choice in terms of accessories. So we want to provide lots of choices for patients, making sure that there is something right for each patient. The work that we've done with United Health Care, we believe, is also about providing choice in the long run. We hope to provide, in conversations with them, provide all of our products to them. How United Healthcare decides to use our products and how United Healthcare decides to offer those products is the prerogative of United Healthcare. I will just say, though, that there were long discussions and long evaluations around health outcomes. And Medtronic is heavily invested in clinical studies and showing the benefits and the value of the therapies. And United Healthcare was very happy in reviewing all of the clinical data that there was merit to include it in their system. So from our perspective and United Healthcare, this is also about providing great outcomes.
Carrie, anything you want to talk about? Because the community was really, let's be honest, they were really upset at that. And I think the anger and the concern was much more towards the insurance company. But at the same time, there's a lot of breath holding in the next couple of years as our healthcare system kind of evolves in this country as to, what systems people are going to have access to and how they're going to be able to pay for them.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would want to say is that what Louis always always says, and we always value here, is that we always listen and we always value the feedback, even when it's not all positive. And we definitely listened and heard that from the community. We do think that this is kind of a long-term play, and our hope was that over the long term it would actually provide more access by working with payers so that they could see the value of these therapies and see the better outcomes that they can provide.
Yeah, absolutely, Stacey. I don't want to ignore the feelings and the discussion in the community several months ago, and we listened, and it was a difficult discussion, and I think at minimum, I can guarantee you that it left an imprint in the back of our mind of how we communicate in the future. We've tried to explain some of the rationale. We tried to explain some of the potential benefits in the future, the pipeline, and we've come true in our promise that we would deliver more choice. We've added the MiniMed 630G. We've added the MiniMed 670G. We've added just recently in our work with BD, the Pro set, infusion set with BD Flow Smart technology. So we're adding a lot of, we're working hard. We are working hard to get the rights for patients to choose us, and to get the right for insurance payers to select us as their partner.
A couple of more quick questions from my listeners, if I could. We talked about how the 670 has that target of 120, a blood sugar of 120. It'll try to keep you there as much as it can. Can you talk a little bit about why that's not flexible? Users right now can't change that. I can't say I want my target to be 90 or 140. My understanding is that this was to help speed approval.
Yeah, that would have been a really complex clinical trial if we were evaluating it at many different thresholds. And we really wanted to get this into the hands of the people who can benefit from it as quickly as possible. And Dr. Kaufman, our chief medical officer, and the other healthcare providers in the trial feel really good about that number. And we saw a lot of, like we were talking about earlier, we saw really positive feedback from the community and those from the trial participants who participated in the trial. And there is a 150 temp target that can be used. I think some of the people in the trial use that to kind of account for like exercise, but that would be something, once the product's in hand, to kind of work with your healthcare team.
Yeah, I think the data, Stacey, the clinical data shows that Dr. Kaufman and a lot of other experts and the FDA, that there's justification for this is a really good good target. And there's been no issues. I think the clinical data shows that timing range, less variability, a lot of clinical outcomes have been improved in the right direction. So it's a great start, and we'll improve to do better than 120 milligrams per deciliter, but it's a great start.
And to me, one of the most stunning things about all of this is, as you've mentioned, how quickly the FDA did approve this. And I think, listen, I'm very much a layperson. I have no insight. It seems like it would bode very well for the future of other hybrid closed-loop systems and for this one as well. Was that as exciting as it seemed? I mean, it seems to me like now that you've got this, you can kind of tweak it and move ahead in the years to come more quickly than we thought even a couple of years ago.
We hope that is exactly what will happen. We've got a great partnership. We all have to work very hard. There's a lot of other companies that are working just as hard to make this happen. I think other systems will come. FDA will approve other systems. I can just tell you that we are working very hard on the next generation and the next generation. We have great partners that are helping us. We've got great insights. We've gotten great feedback from the clinical study from our patients and our nurses and doctors. So we're going to move on. And yes, I hope it makes it faster to bring in, new innovations.
And yes, you can count us as surprised.
I think everybody was.
Happily surprised.
Yeah. I don't know if you can answer this question, but I like to ask. I have spoken to a lot of people in the open APS world, the open artificial pancreas system, where they have taken older Medtronic pumps. And I don't want to use the word hacked because that sounds bad, but these are people. This is not FDA approved. They're doing it themselves. They've taken a code and they've listen to me try to talk about this. They've open sourced it so that other people can do it as well. Do you at Medtronic? I mean, you must be aware of this. Do you talk to them at all? Or is that something that you kind of say, keep over here in the corner and we can't really look at that? What's the talk there about it?
Well, I think first and foremost, safety. As a company, we work closely with FDA. They remind us constantly about safety and efficacy. That is our primary concern, is to ensure safety. And there is quality systems, and there is manufacturing systems, and there are clinical trials, and there are measurements that go along with putting together, the 670, the MiniMed 670 hybrid closed loop system. We love ideas. We love ideas from the community. We listen to our patients, and we encourage a lot of other folks that have the energy and the brains and the know-how to talk to us. But that conversation needs to flow through the systems that the FDA encourage us, that are the law of the country. So there is some level of conversations, but we have to move at the speed of our company and the speed of FDA, and most importantly, the speed of safety for our patients.
Excellent. Did I miss anything that you all wanted to make sure to mention? I mean, there's a ton of stuff to talk about. We didn't even talk really too much about the other pumps that are already in the system that were, that have been previously approved by the FDA and people have been using for years. But just want to make sure I didn't miss anything that you all wanted to talk about.
Well, I guess I'll just say, because then I'll let you close. I'll just say our vision here is to transform diabetes care together for greater freedom and better health. That's our vision. That's our marching order. That's what the words that we talk about every single day. And so it's just so exciting to be taking another step toward that vision. And we know that there's lots more to do. And there's a million, ideas and a lot of work by a lot of people continuing on the next step and the next step and the next step. But we're just so thrilled. We really do I think that this is going to make a really positive impact on people with diabetes. I've been at the company about 5.5 years, and I know I had a discussion about this and what it could mean. I know my first week on the job. So it's just really, it's really an honor for me to kind of be here and be able to experience it with all of these smart people who worked so hard to make it happen.
And Louise, did you talk to a few of the people who kept their 670 after the clinical trial ended and they were allowed to? I'm curious what they had to say.
Yeah, so yes, we have, and yes, that is a big priority, and we've talked to them multiple times. We've had them do surveys, and we have them come into our offices in Northridge, California, talk to our engineers. We've had them come and talk to our executives, board members. They've been great inspiration, and we've had, memorably for me, we've had several parents. And memorably for me, just, being able to have a little peace of mind, not having to be up all night. That has been one of the biggest benefits that they've articulated to us. So we're happy and thrilled that their experience has been so positive, and that their life is a little bit, if not a lot, improved. I'll finish off, Stacey, with some of Carrie's words. We're about greater freedom, better health. Greater freedom, better health. This means that as a chief patient officer, I partner very closely with Dr. Frank Kaufman as the chief medical officer. So we're very concerned about improvements in therapy, in managing diabetes as a disease. We're also very concerned in improving patients' lives. I'm not sure that there's a lot of other companies that have a chief patient officer, but I am committed and dedicated to listening, not just to listen, but to create empathy in our organization to meet and exceed the needs of our patients. So MiniMed 670G, proud moment for everyone, proud moment for our company. We're humbled, big responsibility. We'd love to hear more from the community, ideas, how we can do better, what else we can do around the MiniMed 670G and other systems. We're very much about innovation. In addition to the pump system, in addition to Guardian 3, our new sensor, we have the partnership with BD and the infusion set. We've got the one press sorter. So we're innovating in lots of different ways. And the one thing we didn't talk about, Stacey, was about our partnership with IBM, and it's important to have the devices, but increasingly, you talked about MiniMed Connect and apps and ways to communicate the information to the patients. And we think that our partnership with IBM and Sugar IQ, our new app, will greatly enhance how patients get insights just in time, just for them, very personalized. And I think that will also help revolutionize people's relationship with diabetes. So we hope to also bring that to the marketplace. So lots of innovation.
All right, wait. Tell me about the app. What's the app called?
I was like, you just went. So Sugar IQ is the, Stacey, do you know about our collaboration with IBM Watson?
Yes, that I know.
Okay, so Sugar IQ is one of those collaboration projects, and it's an app that works with MiniMed Connect. So with our MiniMed 530G system, and it is really exciting because it uses all of that smart cognitive computing from IBM Watson to look at diabetes data and nutritional data and then deliver meaningful insights to people with diabetes.
So absolutely, we want to be in the forefront of cognitive intelligence. You've probably have seen IBM advertising Watson and all it brings to lots of other businesses, and we think it can play a big role in the management of diabetes. So we hope to provide insights, advice around how to manage the disease. We hope to provide insights, tips on eating and exercising and lots of other things that help people live their lives, not for diabetes, but just simply with diabetes. So we think that Sugar IQ will come out in the next few months and just take a look at it.
All right, so another question about that. All the data that goes into Watson, right, from IBM, that's all anonymous, right? You don't see it, and do you own it though? Or do people still own it? How does that work?
Well, the patient, of course, owns their data. But when you're talking about, how it works, yes, that's anonymously provided to IBM, so and aggregated, anonymous and aggregated, and that it can look so that it can come back into the system and provide something that's meaningful with I think it's called a glycemic insight.
And Stacey, we know that this is a touchy subject. We're working not just with IBM, but with other companies, Gluco namely, to aggregate data, to make it available in a simple form. We're not forgetting that the data is the patient's data, and they need to have access. And so we're also working to create simpler and easier access and transform that data into information that is useful, that patients can take action. That's what really matters, is for patients to take action. That's what's in our forefront, in our mind. But we are also very sensitive that it is the patient's data and how can we get access to it. And again, it's a journey, and we have our system, and we're working to make that system more accessible to other companies and to other patients and to patients.
Well, I hope that when the Sugar IQ comes out and when the 670G starts shipping, maybe we could talk again, because there's an awful lot to still talk about. I appreciate it, though. Thanks.
Oh, anytime. And hey, Stacey, thanks for everything that you do. I know you've been a proud diabetes mom for what, 9 or 10 years
It'll be
now?
10 years in December, yeah.
Wow. And we just, cheers to you and cheers to the community and all of the people who live with this disease every day and still do really inspiring things. We love our community.
Absolutely, Stacey. Thank you for the opportunity to share our perspective with all of your listeners, all of the patients, all of the families that live with diabetes. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're listening to Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
Again, that was Luis Diaz, Medtronic's Chief Patient Officer, Carrie Hallbaker, the Social Media Manager for the Medtronic's Diabetes Group. My thanks to them for coming on and talking to me about what the product is and is not. And I will link lots of information from Medtronic, from JDRF, people who've written some columns about this. I don't think you can get enough information. If you're like me, I've been reading about this stuff for weeks now. So I'll be happy to put that up at diabetes-connections.com. And Luis was talking about a new inset, and that went by pretty quickly. He talked about the BD inset, and he's talking about the BD Flow Smart. I just want to take a second and point that out. I'm hoping to do a show on it in the future, but it is a new technology in the inset where the pump attaches to the skin. It's got a side opening in the cannula to help the insulin flow, even if that tip is blocked. Because how often does something happen with the cannula or the inset, and then it doesn't matter how great and amazing the pump is if the insulin can't get through. So we'll have more on that. That is a Medtronic product. They bought it, but you will be able to use it with other pumps. That was what we were told this summer. So I'll keep you posted on that the best I can as the information comes out. My community connection this week is all about the elbow bump, to be more specific. My guest is Logan and his mom, Sam, and I met them this summer at a conference, at the Friends for Life conference. And, Logan had understood that there were some fundraising challenges going on, that there were some money needed to keep the Children with Diabetes Friends for Life conference going at the level that it has been in the past. He heard his parents talking about that, and he wanted to do something about it. So he came up with the Elbow Bump Challenge. Now, Logan is 9, and when he was a toddler, probably about 3 years old, his parents educated him on not touching everything because he has all these food allergies. So he couldn't really shake hands. If somebody had peanuts or other foods he's allergic to, it could be very dangerous for him. So he created the elbow bump to, instead of shaking hands. And his mother will explain this more in the interview. But he's such a cool kid, and he wants to get the word out because the Elbow Bump Challenge is a fundraiser that will take place on Diabetes Day on November 14th, and you can do it at your child's school. You can do it where you work. You can do it wherever. I think he's talking about wearing pajamas or a silly hat. He'll explain it. But this is an easy thing to do, and it raises money for the Friends for Life conference that Logan absolutely loves. So here's my community connection with Sam and with Logan. Sam, thanks so much for spending some time with me. I'm excited to talk to you and to Logan. So let's start let me ask you, how did the whole elbow bump thing come up in the first place? Even before the Elbow Bump Challenge, you all had the elbow bump, right?
Yes. So Logan invented the elbow bump when he was a little boy because he grew up with a lot of food allergies. So he wanted to find a way to greet somebody without shaking their hands and then having to clean off his hands all the time because he's a little boy and he just wants to run around and play. So he invented the elbow bump as a way of greeting. So most people in our world know when they approach him, they elbow bump him instead of shake his hand. He's actually started a trend at his school where the teachers that he's had, instead of shaking the kids' hands in the morning, they elbow bump them.
That's great. So I guess all his friends are used to it. When you say he was little, he's still pretty young right now. So he did this when he was 4 years old?
Yes. Yeah. So he was diagnosed with food allergies when he was 3. And I want to say he invented the elbow bump right about that time, between ages 4 and 5, right in the preschool range when people wanted to shake his hands.
When was he diagnosed with diabetes?
He was a baby, 17 months old.
You know, I always get asked, because my son was a few months older than Logan when he was diagnosed, and people always say, you know, how do you know in a child that's small when they're not even very verbal yet? How did you know?
You know, he was always kind of a chatty kid, in case you didn't notice when you met him. And there were a couple of things. He had an allergic reaction to something at a doctor's appointment. And after that, he just wasn't himself. You know, he was quieter. He was drinking a lot. He was barely eating. He was living on goldfish at the time. Ironically, he won't touch the stuff now. And we let that go because, you know, we didn't want to be those parents that called the pediatrician all the time for minor things. But then we were at a birthday party, and he wouldn't talk to any of the other little kids. And we thought that was really, really odd. He was just hanging around us, clinging to us, drinking a lot of water. And then 2 days later, he started sleeping later every day. And that's when we called, because our little kid doesn't like to sleep. He likes to wake up in the morning and get on his way. And he fights bedtime every night. And still to this day, turning 10 in January, he hates bedtime and he hates sleeping. So we knew as soon as he was sleeping longer that something was wrong. So we called.
Did you?
And they got us in. Yeah, so they got us in, and they were literally waiting for us at the door. Great pediatrician's office. They knew what we were talking about from our phone call. So originally they had given us an appointment for 3 days later, and they got us in that night, and we were at the Children's Hospital within hours.
And how long did you stay there?
You know what? We caught him at a good blood sugar. I mean, you know, right now it wouldn't be a good blood sugar, but he was pre-DKA. His blood sugar was 560. So we weren't even admitted. We stayed for less than 24 hours. And then we came back that Monday for some more education, and we were on our way. We're both, that said, my husband and I are both licensed emergency medical technicians. So from a medical perspective, we were probably more okay with taking on some of the responsibilities than some other parents would be at first.
Yeah, because, you know, my son was not in DKA, and his fasting blood sugar was like 80 the day before we went to the hospital. His A1C was 11.5, but he was not in, you know, immediate awful danger. But we didn't know anything. So the hospital stay, I think, was much more about us learning than about him getting better. Right. He probably could have gone home the next day. Let me ask you, though, were you surprised, having the medical knowledge that you had at the time, what you needed to learn for type 1? Were you well educated to begin with, or was it a steep learning curve?
Oh, yeah, no. There was no education about, you know, from a learning, you know, from becoming an EMT perspective, which, you know, from an education perspective for me was about 12 years ago. No, there was nothing on diabetes that was relevant to what I needed to know to take care of my child. You know, the things that prepared me was, you know, seeing blood, you know, how to, you know, approach a frightened child, stuff like that. You know, there's nothing that could really ever prepare you for chasing around your child around the house to give him a needle. But as far as, you know, signs and symptoms, you know, being prepared for, you know, some of the things that have happened over the years with hitting a blood vessel, stuff like that. Yeah. That sort of prep was there, but they do not tell you anything in EMT school, let's call it, to prepare you for dealing with a type 1, you know, whether it's your own child or whether it's a patient. It's just not enough.
It always surprises me how little medical professionals focus on type 1, and so I didn't want to assume that. But that's why I asked that, because I was just curious. Yeah,
I mean, that could have been my particular class, my particular state, but it wasn't enough. I mean, they gave us enough to be dangerous, like know that if somebody, you know, has the symptoms of a low blood sugar, clearly they need orange juice, and, you know, how to take a blood sugar. But you really didn't even have that, you know, the tools on your ambulance anyway.
Wow. All right, so fast forward a few years later, how did you all find Friends for Life? How did this become important to you as a family?
So interesting enough, we just found Friends for Life. This was the conference that we just went to in July, was our second conference. And we found Friends for Life because we were at year 7 of our diabetes journey, which I like to call our 7-year itch, because it was. And I was looking for something to kind of reinvigorate us, both me and Logan, because doing the same thing day in, day out, you know, does, you know, it's definitely gotten easier over the years with social networking now, and, you know, lots of other people to connect with, but it still just there's really not many people in our area. So I had heard of Friends for Life many years before that, and I had used the forums back when he was diagnosed way many years ago to get information. And I just thought that it was about that time for us to do something to reinvigorate us. And that's how I signed up for Friends for Life. And Logan and I went the year before last for the first time.
Well, when I saw him, and I saw him this year, I met you all for the first time, summer of 2016 at Friends for Life, when he had already decided that he wanted to do something. He was into it. I mean, I'm going to talk to him about this as well, but it sounds like if you were looking for some energy and invigoration, you found it. What would you tell people about it? Yeah, who haven't experienced it?
I mean, it is just a remarkable experience. I cannot recommend it enough. From an adult perspective, to be able to be surrounded by parents, both moms and dads, who just totally get what you're going through on a day-to-day basis. And I know that you have social networking online and you can connect through Facebook groups, but there's nothing like, you know, being there and getting that hug, and it's like that mom's got your back. And seeing your kid comfortable with, you know, groups of kids that he's never, ever met before, and he just inserts himself in and, you know, disappears, you know, for a while with them. And you know that they're all going through the same thing, and they all have that common bond. It's remarkable. That said, also, one of the things I found the most valuable for me as a mom, I'm sure Logan has, you know, many different perspectives as a child. For me as a mom is I love interacting with the manufacturers there as well. You know, the people from Dexcom, Novo Nordisk. I mean, the products that we use every single day. Being able to talk to leaders from those companies, you know, with improvements, suggestions, comments. You know, I found that to be super valuable. The exhibit hall itself. We love every part of it, though.
How did the elbow bump challenge come into effect? Is that something that Logan came up with this year, or can you take us through that process?
Okay, so that's interesting. So Logan, you know, as you all know, Friends for Life Type 1 Today had been looking at some they had been posting about some fundraising opportunities last year, and Logan had happened to overhear a conversation that he probably shouldn't have between me and my husband about why Friends for Life needed to fundraise and stuff. And Logan just said, well, you know, why don't we talk to all the kids and have them fundraise too? Like he fundraised last year. He had a hat day at his school for JDRF, and he raised money for his JDRF team. So he said, well, why can't all the kids in the country have a hat day and raise money for Friends for Life? So he had, you know, I had been his email liaison with the director at Friends for Life, Laura, and between them, he had said to her, you know, if you gave, you know, why don't I just take a microphone and tell all the kids to do this, and then the kids will help you. And that's sort of how it all came about, as Logan just decided, and he wrote his own speech, as you know, as you heard that night at the banquet, that he wanted to ask all the kids to help fundraise so that way they can improve the kids programming for this coming Friends for Life in 2017. So he kind of just took it upon himself. Now, calling it the Elbow Bump Challenge, he named it that afterwards because a couple of corporate vendors, sponsors that were there had approached him and said that they were thinking about running the Hat Pajama Day at their companies on November 14th, World Diabetes Day. So he thought it would be fun to kind of create a challenge and see how many people and how many companies he could get to do it.
Very cool. Before I talk to him, I got one more question for you. Do you ever look at him and think, how did this happen? You know, I mean, I saw him. He was well-spoken. He was energetic. He had a great idea. This is going to make a difference. I mean, you must be really proud of him.
I am. He has a lot of energy. He focuses when he focuses on something. He's 100% into it. He's ready. He's got a lot of other ideas. And the thing is that, you know, with everything I've talked to him and said with the election and everything else, there's a lot of other things getting the attention this year, and this isn't the best year, and this isn't the best timing to be fundraising for a November time frame. And you know what? He doesn't let it discourage him. He just says, you know what? So next year we're going to try this, and this is what we're going to move on to. So, you know, he says whatever we can do for this year is great, and you know, we'll try some other ideas as well for next year. He's a remarkable kid. He doesn't He has bad days just like any other child. Type 1, he does not let it get him down, though. He does anything he wants to do.
That's great. All right, let's see if we can talk to him about all this.
All right, Logan, I'm going to give you the phone, but I can't hear it. So if you have any questions for me, you just have to ask me, okay? But I'm pretty sure you can I'm pretty sure you can take care of yourself, though, okay? Here you go. Hold it to your ear. Can I speak her?
Hey, Logan, what's up?
Doing good?
So how are you? I haven't seen you since the summer. How's school going?
Good. Loads of homework, but the homework's going good.
Well, that's nice to hear. What grade are you in?
4.
All right. So what is going on for the Elbow Bump Challenge at your school? Are your friends all signed up already to wear pajamas and hats to school, or are you still working on that?
Well, we're still working on it because I have to write a letter to the head of the school district, not just my principal.
Because you want other schools involved?
But my school already said yes.
Tell me about the elbow bump. That's instead of shaking hands, right? So you don't have to wash your hands away because you have all the food allergies. Do you remember how you came up with the elbow bump? That's pretty cool.
Well, actually, I don't remember, but I do remember one thing. We went to the container shop when I was 5 years old, and I accidentally shook a hand of someone who had peanuts earlier. I had to go to the bathroom and scrub.
Did you get sick, or were you able to get it off?
Got it off in time.
Wow.
It's within a 5-minute time frame, so I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, but that's kind of annoying to have to do that all the time.
Yep.
Do your friends do the elbow bump now?
Luckily, we came up with the elbow bump because you can't eat with your elbows. You can't even lick your elbow.
I'm sorry, Logan. That's really funny. After you say that, has anyone ever tried to lick their elbow?
Well, 2 people can lick each other's elbows, but one person trying to lick their own elbow is impossible.
Yeah.
Unless you have a really long tongue.
That's pretty foolproof, I would think. I like that plan. Do you have your pajamas or your hat picked out? Like, do you know if November 14th were tomorrow, do you know what you're wearing?
Yes, I do. I have a hat with a propeller on it, and I also have Snoopy pajamas.
Oh, I love Snoopy. Is he doing the Red Baron airplane on the doghouse, or are they just cute Snoopy pajamas?
Well, actually, I found out that Lego actually launched a Sopwith Camel, so I actually got it and built it. So I have the real Sopwith Camel airplane.
Nice. I love Snoopy. So why?
Same here.
Yeah. So why Friends for Life? What do you like about this conference so much that you're going to spend all this time and ask your friends to spend money?
Well, it's because you get to actually see the real carb counts on the food. There's a ton of people dealing with the same thing. And Sports Central, it's just where you get to unwind all your energy from doing all the conference stuff and being calm. You just get to go there and unwind your energy.
Yeah. It's interesting, the first thing you mentioned is the carb counts, because there really isn't any place like that where you could just go and eat and know what you're getting. And everybody...
Yeah, there isn't.
Yeah, everybody's looking at the same
You have to read the box every time.
Yeah. When I was at the conference this summer, at the big banquet, you got up there and addressed the whole room at the microphone and talked about this. Do you remember what that was like when you were looking out at the crowd? Were you nervous?
Well, I do remember one thing. I wasn't that tall. I was standing on a suitcase.
What do you hope happens with the Elbow Bump Challenge? I mean, you're talking about your whole school district and there's other companies involved. What would you like to see happen here?
I'd like to see it be very successful and make it go even better next year. If it doesn't go as well this year, we will know what to improve.
Very cool. Are you going to be at Friends for Life again next summer?
Yes, but not the following summer after next.
Oh, why? Do you already know that?
Yes, because we're thinking of going to Alaska.
Ooh.
I dream to go there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Logan, thank you so much for talking to me about this. Any message for somebody who's thinking about doing this at their school? We can give them all the information, but what would you like them to think about?
I'd like them to think about the success of this, and I'm trying to think what else.
Take a second, think about it.
Save the Mickey bars.
That's right, because that's the ice cream that they provide, right?
Yeah, and I love them, and I can only get them when I go to the park now.
Oh. Well, we'll see what we can do. Logan, thank you so much.
And right now I'm thinking the entire population of the country is over 1 million. So I think there is a good chance of some good fundraising.
I think that you think big, kiddo. That is a good thing. I'm going to keep an eye on you. I'm glad I got to know you. More information on the Elbow Bump Challenge at diabetes-connections.com. And you know, I listened back to that interview and we were talking about Snoopy. I don't think I have to explain, right? You all know Snoopy, the Red Baron, when he's on top of his house, his doghouse, pretending to fly. But the Sopwith Camel airplane that Logan is talking about that he made with Legos, that's the actual type of airplane that Snoopy is pretending to fly. It's called a Sopwith Camel. I've also heard it called a Southwest Camel, but I'm pretty sure it's Sopwith Camel. You can look that up and let me know. Oh, and a couple of minutes after the interview, I got an email from Logan's mom. He had forgotten to mention, he wanted to make sure to mention he loves the green bracelets. And he likes to see the famous people wearing them at the conference. He really wanted to talk about that. So I asked him to send me a list of the famous people that he wanted me to mention. So he said green bracelets on Charlie Kimball, the race car driver, of course, Eric Paisley, the country singer, and Mr. Prado, who I think is Ernesto Prado, the NASA rocket scientist that I've talked to. And he said Mary Lucas from Beyond Type 1, but he's not sure if she's famous to the outside world. And me too. He wasn't sure if I was famous, but he liked that. Now, I don't have a green bracelet. I get an orange bracelet because I don't have type 1 diabetes. But it was really sweet of him to say that. And they also asked me if I would ever consider doing a live podcast from Friends for Life. How fun would that be? I will figure something out at one of these conferences because it would be awesome to do something live. The biggest problem is that it's always so loud. If you've ever seen me at some of these places, I'm usually trying to do interviews in the coat closet or in a corner or something because there's so much going on and there's so much activity that it's difficult to get a quiet room to talk in. But we'll figure that out. I like that idea a lot, and we're going to make that happen somehow. Okay, this was a long episode. Thank you for staying with me. Lots of information, I hope, and lots more at diabetes-connections.com. Make sure to subscribe to whatever podcast app you are listening on. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Sign up for the newsletter and email me, Stacey at diabetes-connections.com if you have any questions. I've addressed this before, but again, if you're new to the show, yes, the program is sponsored by now 2 diabetes technology companies, Animas and Dexcom, but I do not intend to stop talking to other companies. Any and all are welcome. This show is about information for the listeners. I'm thrilled to have the support of the diabetes technology companies that we personally use. That's why I love talking about them, because we love using them. But I don't intend to soften my questions for anybody in this realm because I'm here to give you a voice. So if you have questions you'd like me to ask, if you have topics you would like me to approach, please let me know. Without you, without the listeners, there is no show. And I'm doing this because I like information and I'm really curious and I want you to be in on these conversations as we move forward. So thank you so much for joining me again, for helping out with the show, with all the great questions that were submitted, and for all of your support. I'm Stacey Sims, and I'll see you back here next week.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.